On May 9th, 2026, I am running a brevet called the Elfmerentocht. It's a 400-kilometer brevet, and today I am doing a pre-ride of that route. It's a newly revised route, similar to the one I ran last year, but with a few changes. So I'm going to verify the route, look at the facilities, and show you the places along the way. To start, we're going to take a lap around the lake. This is Lafarge Lake, and it's named after the concrete company. They used to do a quarry operation here, and after they hollowed out a big hole in the ground, they turned it into a park. This is a 400-kilometer course, and you have to visit various checkpoints along the way. First one being Sasamat Lake, and the second one is at Pitt Lake. The third one is at Alouette Lake. And then there's Whonnock Lake. Then we'll stop by Stave Lake. There's no control there, but we'll just take a quick look. And then we'll stop at Lake Errock for a control there. Ride out to Harrison Lake. And then there's a long trek out and up to ótsaqel Chilliwack Lake. Then we backtrack down that hill and then climb up to Cultus Lake. Then we head into town in Abbotsford for Mill Lake. And then we finish the loop by riding back to Lafarge Lake. This is not a race, but there is a time limit. You must finish within 27 hours. From Lafarge Lake, we're riding along this Guildford Way bike lane. Watch out for the potential right hooks and these bus stops. I'd say this bike lane is rather poorly designed. I'm not a huge fan of it. Then we ride on Ioko Road on our way towards Sasamat Lake. And here's the historical Ioko town site. There isn't much left of it anymore, just a few houses. There's a schoolhouse, a church, a field here. The Sasamat Outdoor Center is still closed at this hour. I'm running this brevet a couple months earlier than I did last year, so I'm gonna have to find a different clue for the information control. Okay, I found a suitable information control. It's at the trailhead of the Sasamat Lake Loop Trail. This is what that trail looks like. It goes down to a footbridge. This is the trailhead, and the information control is here. I'm stopping here for a quick look at Sasamat Lake. Sasamat Lake is also an artificial lake. It was created over a century ago by the Imperial Oil Company. They had a refinery here and they needed a water source, so they created a dam, which resulted in this lake. This lake is now part of Tamuchtin-Belkera Regional Park, and it's quite popular with picnickers and for water recreation. People go swimming here, paddling, which creates a bit of a conundrum because the dam is now aging and the company wants to demolish it. On the other hand, this is now the main feature of the regional park, so people are kind of attached to this lake. And as of today, there is no firm plan on what to do about the situation. The most technically challenging terrain that you'll encounter on this brevet is this trail along the north shore of Sasamat Lake. It's pretty rough here, kind of bumpy, so I recommend 32mm tires or greater. If you have to walk it, then you walk it. Morning. Barnett Highway, I just take the bus lane and use that as if it were a bike lane. From Lougheed Highway, there is pretty clear signage for how to get onto the Pitt River Bridge. At Shirling Avenue, you have to make this crossing over to the other side. And then you'll end up on this bike path. We are on our way to Pitt Lake, and we are now on the Pitt River Bridge on the Pitt River. So I want you to pay attention to how slow this Pitt River is. It is actually vitally important for one key characteristic of Pitt Lake, which I'll explain later. On the way to Pitt Lake, you'll pass by this golfing resort, and then soon after that, the pavement deteriorates significantly. So with most of the big lakes that we're going to visit today, you typically have to climb up a ridge and then you drop into the lake. Not so with Pitt Lake. It's pretty much flat since the Pitt River Bridge. In fact, it's flat all the way until the mountains begin. This is the Pitt Addington Marsh. It is important habitat for migratory birds. So here we are at the boat launch at Pitt Lake. This is the largest freshwater tidal lake in the world. You can see that side has been our approach. It's been flat all the way since Pitt River. And so sometimes we have Pitt River flowing kind of backwards upstream, pushing water up and raising the water levels here at Pitt Lake. You can hardly see it, but Pitt Lake is actually quite huge. It goes that way into the mountains for quite a bit.
All the way from Vancouver? Holy.
I just pick a random stranger and tell them that I need a witness signature for my brevet card. Here we are, crossing the North Alouette River. And after that bridge, we take the first left onto this gravel trail. sign and make a right turn. Okay, here we are at Alouette Lake in Golden Ears Provincial Park. Alouette Lake extends that way for about 14 kilometers. Here we are at the south end where there is a hydroelectric dam. So this was originally a shorter lake, and since the construction of that dam, the water level has risen and it's a much larger lake than it used to be naturally. Alouette Lake, fun fact, it used to be called Lillooet Lake, but there was actually another Lillooet Lake near Pemberton. So to avoid confusion, they renamed this one Alouette. Sounds similar, but it's now different. Here I am at the beach at Whonnock Lake. There seem to be a few picnickers, a few people fishing over there, a couple in a kayak. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a beautiful day at the beach here. So fun fact about Whonnock Lake is that there is inflow but minimal outflow. And given enough time, this place is expected to turn into a peat bog. Yeah, 14 kilometers. Yeah, here, 400 kilometer loop. Here, science here. Yes,
Hoćeš da ni ga neko, vodu, ponton, jej, to se vodu.
Here we are at Stave Lake. There is no control here since there's no shortcut. I'm just going to take a brief stop just to show you around. There's a map of the place. Apparently there's a Forest Service road that runs along the west side of Stave Lake. So Stave Lake was created by a hydroelectric dam on the Stave River. So you can see a lot of electric wires, cables all around. The dam is that way, slightly downhill from here. And then here is the lake. It serves as a reservoir, so it's fenced off for security. Not much you can see, except that, you know, if it weren't for the fence, it'd be a beautiful view. We're going to ride over the hydroelectric dam. right after this dam, we got to climb out. I'm going to make that sign the information control for Lake Errock. There's a sticker on the back of that sign that you have to read. Okay, here we are at the northern tip of Lake Errock. It seems to be just a nice tranquil place. A lot of backyards with docks. Yeah, just kind of a resort feeling. Here I am at Harrison Hot Springs, the village. There's the resort, and here is the beach, and that is Harrison Lake. Harrison Lake is the second largest lake in British Columbia. It stretches as far as you can see and beyond. Despite the fact that this is Harrison Hot Springs, the water in Harrison Lake is surprisingly cold, and that actually leads to a lot of drowning deaths because people do not expect that the water is that cold. You would think that with Harrison Hot Springs the water would be hot. It is absolutely not. I thought that the hot springs actually have temperatures of around like 55 to 65 Celsius, which is a lot hotter than a typical hot spring. So why is the water in Harrison Lake so cold? Well, through the magic of teleportation, I am here east of Pemberton. Pemberton is that way in about 30 kilometers. This is the base of the climb to Joffrey Lakes and Duffy Lake. skiing at Whistler Blackcomb, you'll be familiar with the Blackcomb Glacier, Spearhead Glacier, and Fitzsimmons Creek in between the two mountains. That water flows out to the ocean, not towards Squamish as you might expect, but rather it flows east towards Pemberton. Also, there's the Lillooet ice cap, which is basically a source of glacial meltwater much further north. All of that drains towards Pemberton through Alto Lake and Green Lake, and then Lillooet Lake, which you see here, which goes that way towards Lillooet River, which eventually empties out into Harrison Lake. So obviously a couple of hot springs at Harrison Hot Springs, that hardly makes any difference to the temperature of the lake in comparison to all that glacial meltwater. The most stressful part of this route is here, crossing the Agassiz-Rosedale Bridge. It is narrow and cars are pretty speedy. There are these flashing warning lights that tell drivers that there is a cyclist on the bridge. Those lights are automatically triggered by a sensor. As you can tell, this bridge is narrow, there is no shoulder, no sidewalk. I've been told that there were plans to add a sidewalk to this bridge a few years ago, but with all the climate-induced infrastructure damage that's been happening around the province, that budget got used up. So those plans have been shelved. Your best bet is just to be assertive and take the lane unapologetically. Once in a while, when I deem that it is safe to do so, I might pull to the side a little bit and wave some cars through. I am leaving in the entire footage of this 1 kilometer segment in this video just to show you how much it sucks, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. To make it less boring, I am fast forwarding this part at 20x. So if anything, it makes the traffic look a bit more menacing than it actually is. Chatting with Gary Baker about this bridge, and he tells me that one possible strategy is to wait for a big truck to come and get in front of it. That truck will then sit behind you and act as your rear guard and prevent other speedier drivers from trying to pass you. Okay, had a snack and drink and washroom break. I am now ready to tackle the Chilliwack Lake Road. It is 8 p.m. and sunset will be in a couple minutes. So I'm pretty sure that in this valley, the sun has already effectively set. Got another 20 kilometers to go to the end of Chilliwack Lake Road. So I'm going to be arriving at Chilliwack Lake in the dark. I just did the 10% climb out of Sless Creek. So most of Chilliwack Lake Road just has a super gentle 2% incline. Not very hard, just enough to drive you crazy. But there is a short 10% section that I just did. And after that, the quality of the pavement has deteriorated significantly. You can see I'm just kind of being bounced around. Pothole. Okay, so here's how you find the control in the dark. Coming down the main road in Chilliwack Lake Park, look for the sign that says campground, turn right. And then you just keep following this straight. Look for this sign that says Paleface Campground Sites, P1 through P48, one way. In other words, keep going straight, turn slightly right. Keep going straight here. And you'll see P1, P2, and you'll keep counting up. Keep going all the way until you see P27. Bear right here. You'll see this outhouse, and then right after that, here's P27. And then to find your way out, just keep following the loop. Here at the stones, you will be forced to turn left, but otherwise just keep bearing right. Follow that one-way sign, just keep bearing right. You see P47, and that's the exit. And left, in other words, mostly straight. The exit sign. The stop sign marks where we first turned off the main road in Chilliwack Lake Park. So make a left, and there's the park exit. So this is ótsaqel, which means sacred lake in the local indigenous Halkominum language. So this lake is officially called ótsaqel Chilliwack Lake, and the park is ótsaqel Chilliwack Lake Provincial Park. The name was changed a few years ago in the name of Indigenous reconciliation. You're probably going to be better off looking at the photo that I took here last year. When I got here was still bright enough. It is rugged. It is surrounded by mountains. You can see that it's been shaped by glaciers and landslides, and it's quite a rugged and impressive place. Alright, back to civilization. Cultus Lake Road. We are at the town of Cultus Lake. The gas station where I had hoped to get some refreshments is closed. Oh well. Here we are at the Cultus Lake Marina. The gate is closed, but we can easily walk around it. I'm here at the Cultus Lake boat launch. This is the information board, and I'm using that as an information control. Cultus Lake. The name Cultus comes from a Chinook jargon word that means worthless or good for nothing, but today it is anything but that. It got a town here that's full of fun activities. There's a water slide park, there's a golf course, an amusement park, and more. It's a really happening place in the summer. Not to mention there is the Cultus Lake Provincial Park. It's a rather tranquil and beautiful place. I can show you the lake. Not that you can see anything in the dark. Since we are doing a tour of lakes, I'm making this bonus stop here in Abbotsford on number 4 Road west of Interprovincial Highway. Just crossed a bridge. It is not clearly signposted at all. It's one of those blink and you'll miss it kind of things unless you know what you're looking for. This is the Sumas Lake drainage canal. Everything that we're standing on here used to be underwater. It's a place called Sumas Lake, and I think in the 1920s or so they drained it to make room for farmland. So today we visited a few man-made lakes. This is a unmade lake. They actually have to keep pumping it. Without that maintenance, then this place just fills up with water anytime it rains. That has happened actually in 2021 and last year, 2025. area up to Highway 1, made Highway 1 impassable, did a lot of damage. Once in a while, nature shows its power, and we are utterly defenseless when that happens. As you can tell, it's quite breezy. The wind has picked up. I'm actually getting a bit of quite a strong tailwind now, I think, heading west. So let's go. Okay, so from Bevan Avenue, here's Primrose Street. Make a right turn into Mill Lake Park. The gate is locked at night, but let's just take the sidewalk. Head straight down this path all the way to the end. And I am making this sign directly in front of you. The information control. It says, Abbotsford, let's make it healthy. So here we are at Mill Lake. Mill Lake is so named because there used to be a lumber mill at this site. I believe it was water powered, built in the early days of the development of British Columbia. And it was once one of the largest employers in the region. So it was very important economically. I think the place shut down around the Great Depression, and now it's just been turned into a park. Riding along Fraser Highway, it's actually not a bad choice to ride at night. I like this better than Lougheed Highway. Much less traffic, and the traffic is slower. There are more traffic lights, but so far everyone has been green for me. Ooh. So it turns out there were a couple of steep climbs through Abbotsford and Langley. I just went up one before turning into 72nd Avenue. It's not altogether a bad thing. Keeps you warm at night. This is starting to look familiar. The approach to the Golden Ears Bridge. And now we take this corkscrew ramp up. That takes us onto the bridge. We're crossing the Pitt River Bridge again. Almost there. Here we are back in Coquitlam. Now we look for the Evergreen Cultural Center. Let's go this way. This crosswalk. Up the ramp to the box office. And here's the finish point at the parking meters. Here's the procedure for finishing your brevet. At the parking meter, press the OK button. Give it a few seconds and then it's going to display the time here. It says 5:21 a.m. Take a selfie. Make sure it's legible and submit that with your brevet card. Okay, so this ride took me a bit over 22 hours. This was a solo pre-ride, so you shouldn't use that as a gauge of the difficulty of the course, in case you're kind of worried that it took me 22 hours and that it might take you longer. 22 is still well within the 27-hour allotted time, so it's not a bad result. I'd say that I did spend quite a bit of time just scouting out various route options, because I made some changes and relative to last year. Picking some new lakes. I think I spent at least an hour, maybe more, doing the filming for this video. And furthermore, I also spent some time just doing some wayfinding. So I had to find the way myself and then go back and repeat part of the route to get it on video to show you exactly how it's done. I hope you all appreciate that work, and hope that makes it easier to find your way, especially in the dark. So yeah, I really hope to see you at the brevet. It's going to be on May 9th, Saturday, May 9th, 2026. Hope to see you there. The eligibility criteria are that you have to be a BC Randonneurs member. If you're not, then it's $20 to join. And furthermore, you must have done at least a 300-kilometer brevet in the past, so that we know that you're capable of attempting a 400. We can waive that requirement if you can demonstrate that you've done something of similar length before. So yeah, hope to see you there.